dearest Wonder Fellows. Welcome to Evening with Gelda program. Today we have a multi-talented person as a guest. She is Pankhuri Sinha. Pankhuri is a bilingual young poetess and a story writer from India. She has published 2 books of poems in English, 2 collections of stories in Hindi, and 5 collections of poetry published in Hindi, and many more are lined up. Has been published in many journals, anthologies, home and abroad. Has won many prestigious national and international awards, like the Girija Kumar Mathur Award for Hindi poetry while studying for her bachelor's in 1995. Chitra Kumar Shailesh Mathiani Award for her first collection of stories in 27. Simapuri Times Rajiv Gandhi Excellence Award in 2013 for outstanding writing. First prize for poetry by Rajasthan Patrika in 2017. Prathlip Award for poetry in 2018. Mathura Prasanna Gunju Award for her second collection of poems in Hindi in 2019. Commodity Ku Award for a story in Hindi in 2020. Her script for the UGC documentary Cobra God at Mercy won the Best Film Award in 1997. Her poems have been translated in over 22 languages and published in magazines in Serbia, Romania, Spain, Czech Republic, Macedonia, Peru, China, Bangladesh, Nepal, Poland, Israel, Sweden, Denmark, America, to name a few. She won the Best Correspondence Prize for her short story in the first Chekhov Festival in Yalta in 2019. Also, she received awards from Russia, Romania, Nigeria, Tunisia, and other countries for her writings in English, and most recently won the Special Jury Award in the Premio International Poetry Contest in Italy. Her writings is dominated by themes of exile, immigration, gender equality, and environmental concerns. After doing her BA from Delhi University and PG diploma in journalism from Symbiose Pune, Pankhuri did her master's in history from SUNY Buffalo and has an unfinished PhD from the University of Calgary, Canada. She has worked in various positions as a journalist, lecturer, and a content editor. Wow! So, let's start our interview, dearest. Dear friend and poetess, how did you first come into contact with poetry?
Hello, dearest Gelda. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to your show. I am honored and delighted and so happy to talk to you. Thank you for your wonderful questions. Well, first of all, I would like to tell you that I came into contact with poetry through my parents. They both were professors of literature, Hindi, and English. And so, it was a kind of a poetic atmosphere that I grew up in. They liked to recite some ancient as well as some modern texts. There's also for me and even randomly. So that was it. And my grandfather was a poet. I love his poems as well. He was a freedom fighter as well. So that's pretty much it. And
Which poets did influence or not your vocation as poetess?
and uh, I began my writing to answer your second question about poets who influenced my vocation. I began my writing in Hindi. My father taught English literature and my mom taught Hindi, but we mostly conversed in Hindi at home. We still do. My dad is no more, but still. And when I was in graduation and had a fat diary for myself, I also started writing poems in English, few, but more in Hindi, and I really love the language. I still enjoy writing in Hindi. So the poets who have influenced me are more from the world of Hindi writing, and I would like to name a few. Also, that Hindi literature has a tradition of resistance writing. Even during the time of independence movement, there were lots of poets who were writing about it, and this was fairly recently, right? So also I would like to share that the romantic period that happened in England with the famous four poets, uh, Wordsworth and Keats and Shelley and Byron, all of whom we admire, happened in the world of Hindi literature about 100 years later, with four poets who I would like to name, who have influenced me, along with those four poets who I named from the Romantic period. I mean, other poets have also influenced me, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. There are so many others, right? But these four poets from the world of Hindi writing are Suryakant Tripathi Nirala, Mahadevi Verma, and today is her birth anniversary. We are celebrating it here in India. And Sumitra Nandan Pant and Shankar Prasad. He has written an epic called Kamayani, which is very, very beautiful. It's about the man-woman relationship and politics and power and a man's lust for a woman's body. These questions have been analyzed there, and I would like to say that other poets from other genres, other styles of writings have also influenced me. I would like to say that color is a very big question, topic of interest to all writers. In the recent times, we saw it flare up really big, but it has been there since a long time. So not just Maya Angelou, but there are so many other writers and poets who have raised these questions very beautifully, of the identity of colored women especially. So it's not just the perspective with color, but also a feminist perspective, And there's so many other feminist poets, Sylvia Plath. I mean, I love Virginia Woolf. I just love her. Meaning, I really like her writings. I think they're so honest, brutally honest and frank. There are those lines where when you feel that everything has to be done by me, oh my goodness, I can't do it, and that line comes to rescue you. Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself, right? So there's so many other writers. I mean, if you start thinking of it, I'll take all your time. So I think I'm just going to stop there. I have been influenced by Nirmal Verma is one of my favorite writers from the world of Hindi, prose writing, and he's a story writer and a novelist, and also has written lots of memoirs and so on and so forth, reportage, and There are people from the world of German writing and from other European and non-European languages, because Spanish, when it is being written in Latin America, maybe has a different flavor. Pablo Neruda, we all love his poetry, and Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I mean these are people because they've all influenced us in one way or the other, so who gets to name their favorite writers, right? So just a few names I would like to share more. Thomas Mann, The Magic Mountain, is one of my favorite novels, and it says so much about Europe, the wars that have been fought there. Hermann Hesse and Steppenwolf, the man-animal relationship, and so much more mystical element to it. So I think I leave it as such.
Do you think that social networks and different digital platforms help to spread poetry around the world?
Um, You know what? I really think that social networking is a blessing for the world of writers, for the world of poetry and digital platforms as well, e-magazines and all of that. I mean, I would like to share that I connected with so many wonderful poets and friends like you on Facebook, and we are doing so many things together, including with so many poet friends in Europe: translation, publication, anthologies, readings, interviews like this one. So how much nicer can it get? At the same time, there are challenges, of many kinds. There are people who would write frivolous things, and this happens in every part of the world, but one has to neither be bogged down by it nor be let down by it. One has to kind of take the challenges sometimes when they come. I also mean that sometimes there is very light poetry, that makes light of things, some very serious things as well, and this could be problematic, and very serious issues might get pushed to the side and might get completely neglected. And these are the risks, of this pattern where people vote. So popular literature is beautiful, which is what Facebook voting is about, but it has its own dangers. So I would like to just underline that.
Cite an ancient and a contemporary poet in which you identify yourself when reading their writings.
Among the poets who have influenced, see, I forgot a few names. Agge and Raghuveer Sahai and Mukti Bodh. Mukti Bodh's poems, some of them are legendary. They are considered like, immortal pieces in the world of Hindi writing. So, but if you have to write one name, if I have to choose one name, probably very difficult from the world of both. Prose and poetry, to name one person, it would have to be Nirmal Verma or Agge. Agge was also a poet and a novel writer and a short story writer. So these are the people who have influenced me, and if there is one ancient person I would like to identify with, maybe Nirmal Verma at the very end, because of the way in which he traveled and wrote about his foreign expeditions, I would say, and adventure and all of that. And I think that is very beautiful, and I get immensely inspired by that as well as I identify with it, because I write diaspora literature, having lived in North America for 14 long years and have had myriad kinds of experiences and adventures, because I am to an extent outgoing as well as an introvert. Somebody contemporary who I identify with, there are lots of female contemporary poets also that I really admire in today's times, from my own language, Hindi as well as English. But if I have to identify with somebody, it's very difficult. So why don't I do this? Why don't I just tell you about a poem that I just read, and I identified with it to an extent, only to an extent, because this is a poem that talks about this issue of color, but it does so very cleverly. At the same time, there is an element of very innocent curiosity and almost this desire to be loved, which is there. We want to build bridges, we want to be connected, and it's almost told from the eyes of a little brown girl. But you know, lately, in the wake of this Black Lives Matter movement, there have been some very ferociously powerful colored poems and that have come out, and I identify with them as well. At the same time, I would like to read a few lines of this. This is called The Phantom, and this is by Lucille Clifton, and this is about some kind of a magic show or something that she's conjuring up. I mean, a poem can be read in many ways, and I'll just do that for you as well. The Phantom. In his purple mask, his purple bodysuit, lived with a wolf called Devil. The village believed him immortal, the ghost who walks through. He was only a man. I would save up to go watch him in his cave of skulls, his penthouse in the city. He would fall in love with a white girl, like all the heroes and monsters did. I was a little brown girl. After the show, I would walk home wondering what would he feel if he saw me. What is the color of his country? What is the color of mine? So I just read this poem. I just read this poem actually on the Facebook wall of an Irish poet and professor named Dr. Derek Coyle, and I just loved this, and I said this to him as well. Now, what is the color of his country? What is the color of mine? Is exactly what I identify with. To the extent of what would he feel if he saw me, I would like to expand on this me, and I would like to say, what would he think if he saw the whole state of affairs around me, not just around my life, but in my country. So, do you know what I mean? So that is what I identify with.
Do you think the pandemic favored or intensified this dissemination of poetry by holding online poetry recitals and literary festivals?
Yes, I think that the pandemic has favored literature, which show so many live shows. I'm sorry, shows, and I have had opportunities to read on Zoom in England so many times and meet so many fantastic poets, and it's so encouraging. We are going to do a workshop as well, and I'm immensely excited and to talk about my experiences of writing about struggle. So it's been a boom, and there have been challenges. If the businesses have been affected, there are less book sales. So uh, you know, everything has a plus and a negative point, but the plus has overweight.
Which is your favorite poetic style?
What is my favorite poetic style is a very difficult question to answer because I'm naive. I haven't studied creative writing or English literature even. My subject is history, and I love that. I think it gives me a unique perspective to look at civilizations and its problems, but I don't know too much about sonnets and other forms. My free verse is my freestyle. I love that. Sometimes I have this, we all use repetitions, right? We make one particular line stand out and we repeat it. And I recently found that it is called a villanelle. Sometimes I use it, and there are many other styles. I mean, some people say they write sonnets and all that, but no. At the same time, I am happy that people have liked my poetry, and they have encouraged me. So,
What source do you seek inspiration for writing?
now what inspires me for writing? Number one, nature. I talked about the nature poets and the romantic poets, but I'm not one of them. I am not. And I identify with Byron when he says in that movie to Wordsworth, to the daffodils, somewhat sarcastically. So I don't do nature poems like everything is good. I acknowledge the climate crisis and I talk about that. And I still believe that nature has immense healing powers over all miseries created by men and women, the humankind. So we must love nature back and try to preserve it. Other poets have influenced me, the life around me, my struggles, my experiences, my travels, my adventures, my imagination, right? So all of this inspires me. There are heroes and heroines, and I've written a few inspiration poems, and I wish I could read to you right now, but I don't have one so handy. So I will save that for another time. But heroes and heroines are also there from many, many fields, right? And at the same time, I've said in those poems that at the end of the night or day, sometimes they let you alone, they leave you alone, and you have to inspire yourself. So.
Have you already reached your goals about literature and poesy?
Now, I haven't reached my goals in literature and poetry at all. I have to work on several anthologies. Several of my editing work is pending in terms of editing story collections and poetry collections. And then my first novel, which I've just begun, has been put on hold. There are so many books that are on hold right now. I have to even see the proof of one of my upcoming Hindi poetry collections. So I'm far away. Yet I'm happy of the journey that I have traveled or am traveling. I'm delighted to have friends like you. And what more can I say?
In your journey as a poet, journalist, and writer, have you found people who encourage or hinder your work?
Um, Yes, I have found people who encourage me. I have found people who have discouraged me. But the times are very hard, there is somebody to hold my hand and to shower me with love, and I'm thankful for that. I also thank probably the the heavens above, if you like, for everything nice that happens. I sometimes also blame them for everything terrible that happens, but that is true. There is petty politics, there are all kinds of things. Sometimes there is discrimination, sometimes people just ignore you, but you have to keep working, and surely one day you get a reward suddenly. Like when I was going through a tough time, and suddenly there was an announcement, I got a big award, and that was so awesome. It felt so cool. So I have remembered that as well. And there are times when you just win an award competing, and that feels very good. I recently won an award in Italy and a few years back in Yalta. So it feels good. And even when you don't win an award and just people just like your poems, yes, it's wonderful. Or your story.
And kindly, could you recite a poem of you for all of us now?
And the panel question asks me to recite a poem, so I will quickly do that. And this poem is called The Invisible War, and I wanted to emphasize upon the divide between the first and the third word. So here it is. With no soldiers, not a single boot down, no enrollment, just a reign of terror, unspeakable terror for certain people in town, people with other countries, other languages, the other kind of look, people who walk the town somewhat more dilapidated in times of such invisible wars. Such outbursts, such outbreaks, people whose othering is slowly being completed by this very war. And the last class lecture has just explained how the earth always remains calm and stable in these parts of the world. The last class has also divided the world in these two halves of the breakable and the unbreakable. The last class has also given the explicit command of keeping them down. So this is about the first world domination to an extent. It's about it addresses the question of race and all of that. I thank you deeply, truly appreciate the opportunity.
Dearest poetess, I thank you immensely for your time spent here with us. It was brilliant. Thank you very much. The end of this march, a month dedicated to all women, I would like to share with you and recite a poem of me entitled The Flourish of a Woman. As thank you all, great women that were interviewed by me this month. Here is. Flourish a woman. May my journey be similar to cherry blossom, that in each cycle I flourish with the same sweetness of cherries at harvest time. May I strengthen myself in awareness of being the dream of who came before me, my ancestors. May in every flower of my existence I get to know me better, to love me better, and so do flourish in the fruits of virtues that connect me with myself and everything around me. May I flourish, but those who I love can reap the fruits of respect, harmony, faith, generosity, empathy, love. May I be grateful to the Creator for bringing in my essence a spark of His divine love. May I know how to live the gift of being a woman. May I have wisdom to keep my mind, body, and heart in perfect harmony with my emotions. May I fall in love with life every day. May I know how to respect my being as a temple of divine grace. May I have the courage to renew my strength in face of every challenge that life imposes on me, that I know how to fight for what I believe in, and above all, I can spread the good seeds so that others may flourish in same blooming as me once. Hope you liked it. And if you liked this idea, you can comment. May I can recite more poems in the next interviews or in the end of each month. What do you like? And guys, hope to meet you in the next Sunday, okay? See you!